We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, faithful acolytes, we take a look at this. And what this is High River Sauce's Tears of the Sun hot sauce. Now, let's see if we can pull this in. Oh, this font is awful. Okay. So, deliciously dangerous blend of habanero and tropical fruit. So I always thought of this, and this was probably my mistake, but I always thought of this as a peach sauce, and that's what kind of threw me. There is peaches in it though, certainly, you can see right there. So what do we got in the old panel? We got apple cider vinegar, pineapple, peaches, papaya, mango, orange habanero, water, brown sugar, lime juice, ginger, salt, garlic, crushed red pepper. And so my interest in this came from being a huge fan of Sabotage and their guitarist Chris Caffrey, who's an outstanding musician. And I've done other guitarists. I've done the Zakk Wylde and the Eddie Ojeda, and I looked at the Boneyard Brew, I think, from Joe Perry, and I've looked at the Bumblefoots. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, and I'm trying to get to some of those, but a lot of them like to use onions and things like that I'm not ever going to attempt to eat if a sauce has that in actual form. And so it loses a lot of that because of that. But so guitarists, if they do some sauces, I'm usually interested. This particular one, I think Caffrey's like a silent partner of High River Sauces or something like that. This, I believe, is his recipe, but he's not as big of a driver, I don't think, of that company as Steve Seabury is. And that guy has done he's one of, I think, the great stories of the hot sauce world. Anyway, so I thought it was more of a peach sauce, and it threw me a lot in the beginning. And of course, you can check out the written review, which is right down there, if you would like to read more on that. Sure love for you to do that. So you can see here, it is fairly sticky, as you would expect. It's not... The viscosity is not super thick, however, and except for this that's stuck right in this cap that I haven't been able to break loose yet. Let's see, maybe this will. So you can see it's chunker. It does not. It's not a smooth sauce. There's bits and pieces of all sorts of things in it, and we can see here some of those dry pepper flakes. It's this sort of light orange, almost brownish color, which I'm not super in love with this coloration, to be honest with you, but it is very, very thick, as you saw. It does a great job of sticking to things as well, but I oversauced this spoon. Well, let's fix that. First thing I get is kind of that brown sugar, a little bit with the vinegar behind that, and then all those tropical fruits. This fails as a peach sauce, but it's not trying to be a peach sauce, so I think that was a lot of my confusion in the early times. It's excellent tasting sauce, very moderate heat. There is hardly any heat at all in this. I would say it's probably more of a 1 for me. There just is not a whole degree of piquancy here. And the flavor is interesting because it's not super sweet. It's just kind of right in the middle. It's got a certain astringency. It's almost like he's blended everything all together. So you've got some astringency, but not a ton of it. You've got some sweet, but not a ton of it. You've got moderate heat, and you can still kind of pick out the flavors of the habaneros, which are used really well here. and you get some of the pineapple as well. Again, peaches is not really there for me, but a lot of the other stuff. There's a slight hint of ginger that you can pick out of there. So kitchen sink sauces, I think, are kind of dangerous because you can lose ingredients in a hurry. This one doesn't do that. There's a salt element to it, but it's not overly salty. It's just a really well balanced, well crafted sauce, and I think that's why it did so well, winning so many awards. Okay, and we have chicken strips. I've tested this on a few other things. I like this sauce. I'm going to be honest, guys, I like this sauce and this version of it a lot better than I did when I wrote the initial written review. It hasn't changed the rating a lot. I just find it more favorable than I did then. So throw a little sauce on there and we'll just get cracking here. So here's kind of the kicker. It's a very, very well-rounded sauce. You can see I just ate a bunch of it there. Again, very, very moderate heat. Comparing this to the sun, I don't think is quite the analogy I would go with, but I mean, orange habanero, I guess it kind of makes sense. The one thing with this being so well-rounded is I think, to a degree, it almost has a loss of identity. And I've used it in a variety of things. I have put it on Mexican food, and it was kind of like it just on these strips here. It was okay. I put it on pizza. It was okay. The thing with that is that it does work well with those other foods to a degree, but most of the time there's also that stabbing sort of niggling little bit that I would almost always rather have something else. And that's kind of where this sauce falls for me. I like it. I'm enjoying this bottle. I'm definitely going to finish this out. I think it's a really well crafted sauce, but for me, I would almost rather have something else in almost all cases when I'm using it. I do think it works spectacularly on pork and turkey. One Thanksgiving in particular, I had this and the Grapes of Wrath together side by side. But Grapes of Wrath is also from High River, and that was just really, it was really dynamite. I have to say, it was an excellent, 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 excellent Thanksgiving. And both of those things worked really well with that dinner, and there wasn't, at that point I was like, there's not things I would rather have. I'm very pleased to have these things. However, how often am I eating Thanksgiving dinner? Thanksgiving. That's how often I'm eating Thanksgiving dinner. So to me it's a moderate, I guess, interest in that I liked it, I enjoyed it, I'm happy to have it, and I'm not going to replace it when it's gone. So it's kind of where it falls into things for me. But I could definitely appreciate the genius behind it, and I think there is a good amount of genius that went into this sauce. It just doesn't hit with me personally. I think a lot of people enjoy it, and as by rights they should, because it definitely is a sauce that I think you have to try. It's one of those few out there that if you're a chili head, this is something you have to go through and check it out and try it. And there's not a whole ton of sauces I would say that about. Maybe someday I'll do a list actually. Maybe someday I'm going to go through and say, if you're a chili head, these are the, people love lists, right? Maybe I'll do a top 10 sauces you need to try if you're a chili head. This would almost certainly, this would absolutely be on, I'll just say that. It would 100% be on there. Along with Pure Death and maybe a few other ones. And yeah, I mean, it unfortunately for me, it's just kind of one of those like it, don't love it sorts of deals. And it just, there's so many sauces, like I said in other videos, there's just so many out there that I'm kind of the point where I need to really love a sauce to want to keep it on hand and stuff. But this was really good to go through again. And one of the things that I'm really enjoying about going through some of the old blog posts to mine for sauces is that I look back and I always look at the reviews to see if my rating has changed at all, if my feelings have changed. And with very few exceptions, they're almost exactly, particularly in the ratings, spot on with when I wrote them at the time. And some of those are 5 years or older at this point. So, and that really, I think, speaks a lot, by the way, to sauces too. If they, in this climate, can last for 5 or even 8 years, that the blog's been running, it's been running 8 years now. So if there's sauces that are still available from the early days, I think that really speaks to something. And this is a sauce that's been around for, I think it came out actually the year I started the blog. So, you know, kudos to High River, Steve Seabury, and Chris Cafferty. You guys definitely came up with a winner here. I mean, what are you going to say? They've stood the test of time. So, kudos to both. Good job, guys. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Support for the written review of Tears of the Sun from High River Sauces. Definitely, if you're a chili head, check it out. If you're a fan of Sweet Hot, this is also an excellent sauce to check out. And I encourage you guys to do that. See for yourself what you think. Now go forth in peace to serve the flame.